So for today, the main subject actually will be specifically how can you use different drones from different manufacturers using the same software, meaning using UgCS. But along the way, also I plan to answer various other questions you guys might have and cover also different workflows. So I'll kind of try to cover as much as I can during today. So as usually, so we have the chat where you can put, you can just write your messages there. But for any questions that you want me to answer during the webinar, please put them in the Q&A section of Zoom. So hopefully you'll be able to find it. Yeah, so I think then without any further ado, let's get started. So yeah, firstly, I'll do a bit of an introduction, give you some general info about UgCS, and then also later I'll show a live workflow where I'll take you through the software, show you different parts of it. In case maybe you want to follow along, you can also download our software from the website. So you just can go to ugcs.com and you can download it from there. And then also towards the end, I'll cover a bit about the pricing, how can you get started, as well as the Q&A session that we will have at the very end. So the approximate time for today, I expect will be around 1 hour, give or take. And yeah, like I asked, please put all the questions in the Zoom. And in case you maybe can't stay until the very end, the recording will be available afterwards. So this will be sent to you. So don't you worry about that. We usually get those questions in the webinar. And also, you're very welcome to join our Facebook group of UgCS pilots. So this is the QR code here. So you can either scan it or if you want, you can just, if you type in Facebook UgCS pilots, you should be able to find that group. Currently, it has more than 4,000 members, so you're more than welcome to join and ask questions related to UgCS or just general questions about drone surveying. So, yep, I think then we can get started. So let's go. So I'll give you a bit of a background about UgCS, so kind of where we come from, what it is, and so on. So UgCS itself, it's software dedicated to professional drone flight planning, so for planning different types of surveys and also executing essentially projects ranging from small ones to very large scale surveys. The key applications of UgCS are as follows. So it's usually LiDAR surveys, then also magnetic and geophysical surveys. Here I can also mention we also do provide different geophysical sensors in our company. It's not the topic of today, but in case you're interested in things such as drone bathymetry, GPRs, magnetometers, and so on, you can also check out all of that on our site. Then another big topic here is photogrammetry and mapping. This also includes 3D reconstructions. And also I know a lot of our users are using UgCS for specifically doing environmental monitoring and for doing research as well. Then kind of today's main topic is on this slide. So is that, yeah, UgCS is a software that supports drones from various different manufacturers. So this includes, of course, DJI Enterprise Series drones, as well as many others. So including Freefly, Inspired Flight, and in fact, any drone that's built on top of PX4 or ArduPilot base. So all of these drones can be used. In addition to that, we also support some other drones such as Autel and a few others. So essentially with the UgCS, also what I'll be showing later today is that you can have the same workflow irrespective of what drone you have, and you can actually very easily change what route you use with which drone. Since actually UgCS, it stands for Universal Ground Control Software in the sense that, well, obviously it's universal and you can use any drone. Next is the slide about how to connect different drones to UgCS. Here I try to simplify a bit compared to maybe if you've seen this also before. So essentially, we can divide this as follows. So firstly, we have DJI drones. So for DJI drones, in general, there's 3 main ways right now how you can connect. Either you simply sync the routes through our cloud, you just log in on both devices and the routes are synced. Second option is you can connect directly from Pilot 2 to UgCS, and then also you will see the drone on the map, you'll see the telemetry, but you will still be able to use the Pilot 2 workflow. So you'll still be using Pilot 2 as the main app on the controller. And here, the third option is the companion app. And now with the companion app, what you can do is you can also you essentially replace Pilot 2 in your workflow with the companion app that's made by us. And this also allows you to, yeah, essentially control the drone also from your computer, send different commands to it. And yeah, so this is also a method that many pilots actually prefer. Then the second is regarding NDAA compliant or ArduPilot PX4 drones. So here typically you have one of two options. Either you have some controller with an integrated screen. The most common one here is it's the HereLink controller. And so with this, you just connect the same way how you connect DJI drones. You essentially put it on the same Wi-Fi as the computer, and the drone will connect. And another option here is the direct radio link, meaning that you just plug the radio link inside of the computer and the drone will automatically connect and appear. So this method is basically the same for ArduPilot and PX4 drones. It's very, very close. So essentially the same method what you use to connect it to Mission Planner or Q Ground Control, exactly the same method also can work with UgCS. And then last but not least, we also have Autel drones, which I also added here. So for Autel drones, we do support a route export from UgCS into the Autel Explorer app. So now I'll just kind of try to run you through a bit of some things which you can do with UgCS, and then we'll get into the software itself. So firstly, of course, and this is why many pilots actually migrated to UgCS, is the terrain following. And while now there are also other apps that offer terrain following, I think UgCS does offer it on sort of, let's say, higher level, in the sense that you can import really large digital elevation models. And also, of course, it already comes with elevation models in the box, so to say. You can adjust the resolution of terrain following. There's different terrain following modes, such as AGL, Smart AGL. If you're using our altimeter, also you can use the rangefinder altitude mode. And if you're doing maybe LiDAR or magnetic surveys, also it's possible to use the trajectory smoothing. So different ways how you can ensure that the drone follows the terrain exactly how you want it. Next, also just a brief slide about LiDAR flight planning. So here also we have quite a few tools that I'll try to show to you today if we will have the time. So we have right now two different calibration instruments. Well, in fact, more than two now, actually, there's three. So for DJI LiDARs, we have calibrations. For many other LiDARs, we have the figure 8. And then also very recently, we added for yellow scan LiDARs, the U-shape calibration as well. And in fact, we do support any LiDAR sensor on the market. So if you're doing LiDAR surveys and you haven't yet tried the GCS, maybe it's worth giving it a shot. Then, of course, for photogrammetry and mapping surveys, also you can plan out these. So we have photogrammetry corridors, normal photogrammetry areas, as well as all of this adjustability. I'll show you more about this when we get into the software. Here also you can see a bit of a more unique flight planning segment. So this is the circle grammetry tool. And so the circle grammetry tool allows you to quite effectively plan flights over a specific area without having to fly outside of it. And you can do this, for instance, for 3D modeling and object reconstruction, which also can be very useful when, for instance, flying over some construction sites or residential areas that you have to map out. Also, with the software, you can do larger projects, so you can see multiple different routes on the screen. And in fact, I won't have this that much in the presentation, but another thing that UgCS actually does do is it allows you to control multiple drones at the same time, meaning that you're not limited to only having one drone connected. You can have multiple drones connected to UgCS at the same time. And yeah, you can monitor drone locations on the map and you can control them. So this is this is one of the very interesting things that the software also does support. Also, like I mentioned already earlier, we do support corridor flight planning. So if you're doing LiDAR corridors or mapping corridors, so also this is inbuilt in the software and something you can use. The map here is also quite customizable. So you are able to not only choose between the base map sources, but even use your own. So you can create maps, use them for flight planning. And this can be useful specifically when maybe the area where you're flying, the default map is a bit out of date. For instance, this can be very relevant for pilots who fly over mining sites or construction sites where, things can change daily, and you need to have an up-to-date map for flight planning. And also, of course, we do support import of various different files. This includes KML and CSV for route planning, KML also for displaying on the map, like you can see here in this image. And then also, like I mentioned, we also do support DEM and DSM file import for your flight planning needs. And yeah, there's different options for flying above terrain. This already I briefly mentioned before. So there's AGL, Smart AGL, AMSL, which means the drone will stay level above the median sea level, and also the rangefinder mode, with which, by the way, you can also fly at very low altitudes, meaning that so usually the rangefinder it's kind of used for ground penetrating radar surveys and other low altitude surveys that you have to do. So they're typically the drones flying at 1 or 2 meters above the ground. So very, very low in order to collect this data. And then also the software, it's not working in any browser, so it's installed locally on your computer. We support both Mac and Windows systems. And this means that even if you need to go out somewhere in the field, even in very, very remote areas, you can still have your map, you can have your elevation, so everything will be running on your computer locally. Personally, the furthest, I suppose, where I've gone with this was in Greenland, where yeah, we went on a project, on an expedition, I guess you can call it, and also we were completely without any access to the internet, and UgCS was fully working, fully functional with offline maps loaded, and yeah, it would have been really difficult to do it without. And also, you can use this for building inspections, since, of course, as you probably noticed, the UgCS is in full 3D. So also we have the possibility to plan vertical inspections. This can be for different buildings, for building inspections, also for inspecting various natural objects, such as rock cliffs, for example. I've seen pilots also inspect water dams. And so, yeah, various different things also can be inspected in this way. This is one of the surveys which I also actually flew myself. This is in Spain. This is basically a project of a monastery that we had to recreate. And then here you can see, so the flight was planned in UgCS. So we covered the kind of taller towers, which were on the sides, as well as the wall that's here in the middle. And then this data set was then later processed in reality scan. And so here also you can see a bit of the result that you can get, even from such a quick flight. But yeah, now I'll just take a brief look if there's any questions that I can answer. And also, then I think we can go into the flight planning part itself. So one question is about, is DJI Neo drone supported? Unfortunately, no. So we do support DJI Enterprise series drones. I'd say right now the only non-Enterprise series drones we do support from DJI is the Mini 4 Pro drones. This is also supported and this can be used. But typically, UgCS is primarily used for DJI drones such as the M350, M400, M300, and even some older DJI drones. So for instance, the DJI Inspire also is supported, the Phantom 4, Mavic 2 series. So all of these drones are also covered. Another question I see right now is about bridge inspections. So can we do bridge inspections, especially under it? With bridge inspections, it's always a bit tricky. I recently spoke to also some pilots who are doing bridge inspections with UgCS. Easiest part is doing the sides of the bridge and the top of the bridge. So the sides you can do with the vertical scan tool, and the top you can do with the photogrammetry tool. But scanning underneath the bridge, so of course there you can have a flight path that takes the drone through it, but also have to take into account that, well, it will depend on what bridge you're scanning, but that the drone might lose GPS signal. So that's a bit of a danger when doing bridge inspections. So it depends a lot on what type of bridge it is. Safest option I can recommend there is to cover as much as you can of the bridge automatically, and then you can cover some parts of it manually, at least initially, and then, you know, maybe you feel safer and then you can even try to automate it. Okay, so I think now let's move on to the live software demo. So I'll show you GCS itself, and then I'll try to answer any more questions. So just again to remind you guys, please put the questions in the Q&A so that we then have all of them. I'm also now joined by my colleague Valeris from our support team. So also he'll try to help me with some of the questions. Oh yeah, by the way, I see just one quick question that so is the Matrice 4T supported? Yes, the Matrice 4 series it's fully supported. We do not yet have support for the Matrice 4D. However, this is also coming very soon. So also this you'll soon be able to use. Oh yeah, from Miles also I see your question. So can UGCS be used with DJI drones that can UGCS only be used with DJI drones that have a released SDK? Answers like this officially yes. So officially and fully we can support only the DJI drones which are supported in the MSDK. So this means all the large drones, the Matrice 4, Mavic 3 Enterprise, you get the idea. The smallest DJI drone which we do support officially is the Mini 4 Pro. However, I know there's a lot of other smaller DJI drones, which sometimes, you just have the drone and you're learning, or sometimes it's because of regulations that, you just need to fly this lighter drone. There are ways how to use it. We've been getting a ton of questions about the Mini 5 Pro drone. As you might know, the Mini 5 Pro, it is not yet supported in UgCS and it's not yet in DJI's MSDK. So they just haven't really added. But with that said, I know there are some users with the Mini 5 Pro who are using the drone. Now you might ask, how are they doing it? How are they planning these missions for a Mini 5? It can work in the following way. It's a bit of a workaround. So again, this is a bit unofficial, but you can plan just a simple waypoint flight on the DJI app, right? And when you do that, there's a KMZ route file that gets saved on the controller. So what you can do is you can plan a mission within UgCS for, let's say, the Mini 4 Pro drone. Then this route you can export. This will export it into a KMZ file, and then you can simply replace that file that's on the controller. So again, it's a bit technical, but you can actually look it up. I know there's also even some other there's some browser-based flight planning solutions that also work in this way. So unofficially, this way also does work. And for some other drones, for those which are supported in Litchi, actually, we also do support route transfer, well, essentially from UgCS into KML file, and then you can import it in Litchi and fly. On this, we do have some guides that I'm sure you can also find if you look it up. Then one more. So yeah, can you say more on the connection of UgCS through the RC to ArduPilot? So here it does depend on what ArduPilot drone you are using. The most commonly used controller there is the Hearlink controller. And so with the Hearlink controller, it's very simple. You just put your computer and the Hearlink controller on the same network, and then it should auto detect with the latest version of UgCS, and your drone should appear. I know there's some other controllers out there with screens, so most of them, if you can connect it to Q Ground Control or Mission Planner, you also will be able to connect it to UgCS. Sometimes you might need to reconfigure some ports. I know that right now that's the situation with the Inspired Flight controller with also the inbuilt screen, but also we're working on making it a bit more simple. But essentially, same way how you connect to Mission Planner Q Ground Control, same way works for UgCS. Okay, so right now, let's again maybe take a step back. Let's go into the software. I'll try to show you around that, and then we'll go back into the questions. So if there's something on your mind that you want to have answered, yeah, please put the questions in the Q&A, and then I'll get to them as soon as I finish with this part. So here you see this is the interface of UgCS. Let me see if I can maybe make it slightly larger for you. So hopefully you should be able to see it. Yeah, it should be good. Okay, so right now, I'm sure maybe some of you have already had some experience with the software. Maybe some of you are new to it, but I'll try to do let's call it a brief tour around it. So firstly, you have the map itself. So map is fully 3D. So Yeah, I like to say, think of it like Google Earth, but where you can plan your drone missions. And again, so this app you see right now, this is the what runs on the desktop. So this is where you do all of the flight planning. Now, everything on this right side of the screen, this will be concerning your drones. So when you have a drone connected to UgCS, so this is what you will see. So you'll see all of the drone's telemetry in here. Now, next, so everything then regarding the route control, this will be on the left side of the screen. So this will be your route planning, all of these tools. So we'll go through them in just a second. And now, also regarding the map itself, I'll try to maybe also briefly go over what you can do there. So we can go here into map layers. So this opens this window, that's from the top bar. And so then in map layers, you can do different changes to the map itself. And let's take a brief look at what is here. So firstly, you have the map section of map layers. And so this is where you can have different base map layers. You can, if you want, you can also change through them. You can select different ones. For instance, you can select Bing if that's what you prefer. Or like I showed you in the presentation before, if you want to have some map overlays, so also these you can import through this window using this plus button where you can simply add a new map source and then you can simply upload it from a GeoTIFF file. Now, next we can go into the elevation section. This I would say is probably the most important one of this window. By the way, here, I just prefer Google Maps. That's why I'll just quickly switch back. So here in the elevation tab, this is where you have, well, essentially your elevation sources. And you can see we have the terrain source and the surface. Difference here is that the terrain, that's what is used for calculating the flight altitude. So very important. The DSM, this is something you can use if you have a digital surface model, which gives you access to understanding during the flight. So how high will the drone be, for example, above the tree line, or how high will it be above some buildings that are on the ground. So in case you have a DSM, then also this you can use here. Now, also for those of you from the United States, so here we do have actually two inbuilt sources from the USGS. Again, not to be confused with our software name, UgCS. This is USGS service. So this data is 1/3 arcsecond. So this is with only 10 meters between the elevation points. Now, this is available for the central USA and for Alaska. So if you are from there, then you can, to get higher accuracy flights, you can simply take it, import it in here using this arrow, and then you'll have access to this data immediately, and you'll be able to plan more accurate flights. And if you're from somewhere else outside of the US and you also want to have more accurate elevation data, you can always also import it. I know a lot of countries do publish different elevation data that is more accurate than the SRTM data. And to import it is the same process. Essentially, you can just click here on this plus button, add some name, import the elevation source, and then set it as one of the active sources, and then you will be able to use it for your flight planning needs. So even if you have maybe your own data, you also have some elevation layers of exact areas, you can easily use them inside of UgCS. All you need is a GeoTIFF file. So with the .tif extension, that's what you need to use. So then I'll run quite quickly through everything else. So here we have the 3D objects that if you want to import a KMZ model of a building, so this you can do through this section. 2D objects, this is for importing KML files. So if you want to, for instance, import, let's say, borders of an exact survey area, so you would see them on the map. So this is what you can do here. For example, if you maybe have some polygon marked out on, let's say, Google Earth Pro, then you can download it as a KML file. You can import it here and you'll see it on the map. I sometimes use it also to take some route from UgCS and also display it on the map simply as these white KML lines. Next this is where you have your place marks. So place marks also you can add yourself just by right-clicking anywhere and adding a place mark. So I'll just briefly show you, this is essentially how it looks like, and you can add different descriptions. You can move it around if you choose so. So this is just one additional feature that the software offers. Next, we have the no-fly zones. This is just to toggle the visibility of them. And then last but not least, we have the offline maps. So in this section, you can basically cache maps for offline use, so maps and elevation. You can mark out different areas on the map and then cache them. So that was a bit about the map layers window, but now let's kind of get back into other parts of the software. Now, since for today, actually, one of the more important questions is how can I use different drones with same software? So now I'll try to take you through that. So up here on the top left side, we have this button which can take us into the main menu. So now let's go here. And so here right now you can see these are the two drones which I have right now. These are just emulator drones that I have connected. But so now if we go here into drone profiles into this section. So these are all of the drone profiles which currently UgCS has. And here on this kind of sidebar, these are all the drone platforms. So for example, if I press, let's say on the Matrice 4E, so this is this drone profile for the platform. Essentially for DJI drones, the platform and profile of the drone, these are going to be the same. However, if we go, for example, to ArduPilot here, you can see that for the ArduPilot platform, there's a lot of different drone profiles. So for example, you can see we have the Inspired Flight 800, Inspired Flight 1200. Then if we scroll down here to PX4 also, then here you'll see the Freefly Astro drone, as well as the payloads that it has. Now, if we go here on edit, also then here you can see that we can actually edit all of these drone parameters. And now kind of what I'm getting at is that if the drone you're using is not on the list, I know also some of you guys are using different custom-made drones or drones maybe built by some smaller companies who might not yet be within UgCS. So what you can do is you can take either an existing profile and you can modify it, or you can create your own profile. Now, to modify a profile, that's quite simple. You can just take any of them, let's say the ArduPilot, the Arducopter Quad, or maybe even the, let's say the IF 1200. Then you can simply copy it, and then here you can change all of the parameters that you need. You can even change the name of the profile, save it, and you'll have your own drone profile for using it on different missions. Similarly, for the payloads, we have this default list of drone payloads. And if maybe the camera that you are using is not yet here, then you can also easily add it. So either you can edit some existing camera profile, or you can add your own. For example, you can create your own profile here. You can then choose what camera it is. So this is just the image of the camera. And then all these parameters you can fill out. So sensor height, resolution, true focal length. This is usually kind of what lens you are using. So either it's a 50mm, 35mm, or what have you here. Then you can save it, add to the drone's profile, and then you'll be able to use this camera in your missions. Now, I'll answer any questions if you'll have them exactly about the profiles, but now I say we can go back here, and I'll maybe try to show to you different workflows of creating missions in UgCS, and then also how you can change those missions between different drones. So for instance, what we can do now is, I think, let's plan one mission, simply a photogrammetry route for a DJI drone, and then I'll show you how you can transfer that to another drone profile. Well, saying, for instance, maybe if in your team on that day the DJI drone is taken, or maybe your customer changed the requirements, saying, "Hey, we can't have DJI drones on this mission." So this will simply show you how you can easily change it around. So now let's go here, create a new route, and then here also there's a few options. Either you can import this from a file. So importing from a file, this is easy if you have, let's say, KML file or a CSV. But in this case, I'll simply create a new route from scratch. And then now let's select, for example, the M350 drone. And then as the route type here, I'll select photogrammetry. And here I'll select area. Now, let's go here to some area that we would like to map out. So maybe let's take this small area here and plan a quick mapping mission over it. Now, also you can see that we're prompted to actually choose what camera we are using. For photogrammetry missions, this is really important. For LiDAR missions, this is kind of a bit secondary, but for LiDAR, we'll get into it. So here, I'll select the DJI H20 wide camera, and then you can see, so we already have our route here calculated. Now, there's a few other parameters that you might want to look at in here. So firstly, we have the flight height. In this case, I'm using 50 meters. By the way, in case you prefer using imperial units, don't worry, you can actually change to them in the settings. But since I'm from Europe, I just prefer using a metric system. Next, you have the flight speed, so 5 meters per second. The overlaps set to 80 and 70. The turn type, I usually prefer using adaptive bank turn. And then as the altitude mode, we can now either keep this as Smart AGL, or we can also set this to AGL. There's a slight difference. Smart AGL allowing you to fly up even more steep surfaces. Now we can take a look at these actions that we have here. So we have the set camera attitude to 90 degrees. If you're maybe doing some 3D modeling, so this you might want to set not to 90, but maybe to something like 70 degrees, for example. And then we also have the set camera by distance, which automatically calculates the parameters. So how often should the camera be triggered? If you want to see exact, parameters and how many meters the camera will be triggered, you can click up here on this checkbox, and then this route log will open up. And then here you can see all of this information, such as the size of the footprint, number of waypoints, passes, as well as how many shots will the camera take. In this case, you can see it's 605 shots over this area and a shot every 10.9 meters. So, and then also there's some advanced settings, but I think maybe for this kind of more simple tutorial, I'll not go into these yet. If we'll have time, we can take a look at all of that later. So now I have this basic route ready. Maybe I'll just adjust the borders slightly. So if we were now ready to upload this to the drone, then again, there's a few options. Either we can, if we're using UgCS Cloud, we can simply synchronize this to the cloud and to Pilot 2. And if you're simply using Pilot 2, we can synchronize it directly to the controller, or with Companion app, you can just upload it directly. But now, so what happens if you want to maybe change this, if you want to move this to another drone platform? So also, by the way, before maybe we go there, one more thing, I'll just show you the elevation profile. So this you can also open from the top bar that's here. You can also expand this window if you want to see some more information here. And also you might notice that as I'm moving the cursor through the elevation profile, that on the route itself, you can see there's this red indicator that indicates what part of the route we are in. And these little thin vertical lines, these are the waypoints that you are now also seeing. So also just one interesting thing. And here, of course, also you can see the estimated time, distance, as well as the altitude range for the route. So this is what you can see here in the elevation profile. So, but now if you wanted to change the drone for which you're using this, so you can see up here in the, what I like to call the route card, right now we have DJI M350 drone. So now we can go here into route parameters. And then actually here you just have this vehicle profile section. And then the vehicle profile, you can easily change to another drone. And then with this, you'll be able to use this route for a different drone platform. For example, if you wanted to use this on an IF800 drone, you can also select it. Or let's say maybe, let's take the Freefly Astro, for example. And now you'll see this notification that apply the route changes. Some parts have been changed. Here we have to click on yes. Now you'll see we're getting this error because we don't have a camera selected. So now, obviously, because photogrammetry mission is calculated using the camera parameters, the software has to know what camera you want to use. So here we can, for instance, select the Sony 35mm camera, and then we just need to wait for the route to be calculated. And so this is kind of what you see on the surface level, right? This is kind of what you see as the when planning the missions. But what happens underneath the hood, it's a bit more, I wouldn't say complex, but there's more things happening than the eye sees. So there's different software components that control how the route gets translated into let's call it the language that the drone takes in, right? Because there's different route formats that different drones accept. So this also is what UgCS handles because there's what we call VSMs or vehicle-specific modules. A bit of a technical software term, but briefly what it does is it translates the route into the drone's format. And that's what UgCS comes in built with. So when you install it, you have options to select, for example, also the PX4 vehicles, ArduPilot vehicles. So also you can basically choose what drone you want to use this for. And also, by the way, if you wanted to use this or basically preview this same route in, let's say, Cube Ground Control or Mission Planner, another kind of a bit of a hack, or not really a hack, but like a feature many people don't know, is that you can go here and then you can select Get Native Route. Now, what this will do is this will take that same route file, which you would typically be uploading to the drone, and this will save it on your computer. As usually for ArduPilot and PX4 based drones, this is a .txt file, so simply a text file containing all of the routes information. Now, once you save this, then you can also import this into Mission Planner or Cube Ground Control, and you can preview it there. Also, you can use the same file to, for instance, transfer it to the controller, because usually the controllers running Cube Ground Control app, they can also take in these files. But again, that's a bit of a kind of thing that you don't necessarily need to do, because with these drones, typically what you do is the drone just connects and you press on upload within UgCS and the route gets uploaded to the drone. So I'm just kind of showing this as a kind of interesting feature, which some people might not know about. So, but yeah, that's essentially how you can take any route and how you can transfer it between different drone platforms. And you can do this for any route. Now, so this is kind of a simple photogrammetry mission. And now I want to show you also how you can plan a few different types of missions. So for example, now I can show you how you can plan out a LiDAR survey. So for this, we can maybe again take the Freefly Astro drone. And then as the route type, I'll just select a LiDAR and then let's do a LiDAR area. So LiDAR area will probably do slightly larger. So for example, maybe let's say maybe we want to map out this area with LiDAR. Okay, let me do some adjustments here. And again, so with LiDAR, it's important to note that any LiDAR sensor on the market, essentially, it is supported. And that's because essentially all you need from the LiDAR sensor is the field of view angle. For many LiDARs, this is 70 degrees. For some, it's more. So usually you just have to match this with the field of view angle of your sensor. And then next, we also just input the flight height. So for example, in this case, I'll use 50 meters. The side overlap value here, we can use a smaller one. I'll use 30. And then also I'll just need to change the fence radius for the drone's profile, simply because this route, it is quite large. And then you can see, so we have our LiDAR route calculated as well with 30% overlap using this field of view value. Now, depending on what sensor you have, so what LiDAR sensor, also there's a bit different workflow and different calibrations that you must do for the IMU. I know some LiDAR pilots are used to doing the calibrations manually, but also if you want to make it more consistent, so what the UgCS allows you to do is it allows you to add these automated LiDAR calibrations. So this is something you would typically use for something like rock robotic LiDAR, yellow scan, and many others. The most commonly used LiDAR calibration for non-DJI LiDARs is the pattern tool, so also called the figure 8. So now I'll just add this as the first tool in this route. And now you can see, so before the drone starts flying the whole route, it will do the figure 8, and then it will proceed on the route. For some LiDARs also, it's necessary to do another figure 8 at the very end. So also there, you can easily add it. So you can just select pattern, add, and then you can also have it executed at the end of the route, like so. So that's essentially how you plan a very basic LiDAR survey. Of course, there's a lot more that you can do here. You can adjust the terrain following resolutions. You can play around with different parameters, but that's kind of the basis, right? Now, depending on what camera or what LiDAR you're using, also there's a slightly different workflow. So for example, here you can see this is just a pattern which I added, but if you would be using, for instance, the yellow scan LiDAR, so then instead of this figure 8 pattern, you would be using this U-shape pattern instead. So I'll also just add this in here. And now you'll also be able to see, so the drone will do the U-shaped calibration before starting the route. Moreover, for LiDAR, you can also do different other things. Now I'll just try to very briefly demonstrate so what you can do with that. But for example, you can also adjust things such as the overshoot. You can adjust the area buffer. So for instance, if you wanted to ensure that the drone will cover slightly larger area, then also you can use that. There's also trajectory smoothing. This allows you to ensure that the drone will essentially, as the name implies, to smooth out the trajectory and, for instance, make sure the drone doesn't dip down too much. So that's also one of the things which you can do here. Yeah, that's kind of for LiDAR area. Also, you can plan out corridor missions. Not sure if we'll have enough time for that. But maybe what we'll do now, I'll take a brief look at the questions you guys have, if there's maybe something, and then we'll jump back into the flight planning part. I hope that sounds good. So I see there's quite a few questions that my colleague Valerie's already answered. I'll also take a look if there's maybe something interesting to tell to others. Yeah, so one question was, does UgCS also work with previous DJI models? So yeah, we do support also older DJI drones. So M600, M200 series, M300, even though M300 is still quite a workhorse, I wouldn't really call it old. And yeah, so also with USA-made drones, so we do work with USA-made drones as well. And there's a lot of different terms that you can use here. It's some call it NDAA compliant, there's blue list, there's USA made, but in short, what it usually is, it's a drone based on ArduPilot or PX4 platform. So when I talk about ArduPilot and PX4, just know that this also means USA built drones, because most of them are built on these platforms, with some exceptions like Skydio, for example. Okay, yeah, also saw one question. So, is the free application limited and all of that? So, all of this is all about pricing and how to use it. We also have a free version, by the way. This I'll talk to in just a bit, and I'll show this to you. So, let's see what other questions. Okay, yeah. So, if scanning a very large area, is there a way to divide the mission in steps based on the battery level? If yes, is it possible to change the home point for every step? This is a great question. And actually, in the current version, which you see here, there is not a very easy way how to do this. So kind of you would need to simply plan, let's say, how I would do it is I would plan out one area, and then any route that you have, you can simply duplicate it and move around. But we are actually working on the new version of UgCS, which it's not the next one, but the one even after that. So this is UgCS 6, which will contain something along those lines. So yeah, maybe you have seen some teasers already, but so this is coming very, very soon. So yeah. What I can show here is that on this workflow, let's say if you had to scan multiple areas here, so what you can do is you can actually take any of these routes, you can duplicate it, and then after duplicating, you can move this route around. And in fact, you can do this multiple times. So if you wanted to, for instance, ensure that the whole area is covered and not having to plan out every single route again, you can just plan out one of them, and then you can do this duplication, and you can simply move them around like so. Because also one of the good things with the GCS is it allows you to have multiple routes planned out at the same time, and you can easily move between them, copy them, convert them into waypoints, and so on. So all of these things are available. Now, oh yeah, by the way, I'll again just try to remind you guys, please do put the questions in the Q&A. I see some of you did put them in the chat. Also, yeah, one question I see about the pricing, will it be available on a monthly basis or annual? Yeah, so about this also explained, but essentially, in short, we have various different pricing options. So for different preferences. So we do have a monthly subscription. So you can, if you need to use it just for 1 month, you can take that. We do have also annual option, and also, in fact, we do have a perpetual or a lifetime license, which actually I think is getting more and more rare these days. So with the perpetual license of UgCS, what you get is you also get support and updates for the first year. But as the name implies, you own the software. So you don't need to make these recurring payments. After the first year of the perpetual license, when the kind of support and updates period expires, you can choose to purchase another year for that, but you're not forced to, and meaning that the software still stays functional. So that's why a lot of people prefer the perpetual licenses, because you can just buy it and then not have to worry about any recurring payments, and you just own the software and can use whenever you need, however often you need. So before we maybe go into some other questions, I'll try to kind of wrap up a bit the part about flight planning. There's a few more things I want to show to you, and then we can essentially move into, I'll show you about the pricing, talk about that, and try to answer any of the questions that you guys might have. So far we kind of have covered planning out photogrammetry missions, planning out LiDAR missions. There's also corridors, but I think for corridor mapping, it's not that different to plan compared to areas, so I'm sure you guys won't have any trouble doing that. I just want to also quickly demonstrate some other tools which maybe less people know about or have tried. So also in GCS, we do have the vertical inspections, the vertical inspection tool. And so also I'll just briefly show you how you can do this. Maybe let's go. Okay, I don't seem to find any tall buildings in this area, but I suppose I can just demonstrate essentially how the tool works. So with the vertical scan tool, but also it's used sometimes I've seen some customers use it for rock cliff monitoring. So right now, also I'll need to select the camera. In this case, maybe let's go with the Zenmuse P1 camera, which is actually a really great payload for specifically doing vertical inspections. And now you can see, so this is kind of a basic vertical route that we have here. So let's first look at the parameters and what we can change in here. So firstly, we have the minimum height. So the minimum height right now it's set to 30 meters, which is quite high to kind of in this particular area, since there's no trees, no obstacles. So let's try to bring this down a bit. Let's maybe bring this down to something like 10 meters. And now the maximum height is 50. I'll just also maybe bring it down to something like 40. Next, we have the speeds. So you can separately set the vertical and the horizontal speeds. This all set to 1 meter. And then also one important parameter is this distance to the facade. So usually, of course, with this, you are scanning some sort of, either it's a rock face or a building or a dam or what have you. So typically you have some exact distance that you know the drone will be from the wall, let's say. So in this case, this is simply set to 10 meters, but usually, so I would, with the building, let's imagine maybe this is the part of the building. So I would usually measure this distance in here using this measurement tool. So I'll just kind of point it roughly to where it is on the map and where I want the drone to fly from, how far I want to be. So usually 10 meters is fine, I would say. That's kind of a good distance for vertical inspections. Sometimes you want to get a bit closer, but with a good camera, usually like it's better to be a bit further to ensure that, you know, the flight is safer and that, you know, for instance, when scanning really tall buildings, the drone won't lose GPS if it gets too close. So next, for the vertical inspections, also there's actually two different patterns. There's the vertical and there's the horizontal pattern as well. So obviously for taller buildings, you will want to use the vertical pattern, but for buildings which are longer, so these can be maybe some shopping malls or some, you know, industrial sites, factories. So in this case, you will want to use this horizontal pattern. Then the turn type, usually I recommend using stop and turn for DJI drones for this to ensure the drone, you know, stops at each point before it moves upwards and does the next line of the scan. And then here in action, this is very similar to what we had in the photogrammetry tool. We have the camera tilt, in this case set to 0 degrees, meaning that the camera is facing directly at the wall that it is scanning. And next we also have the set camera by distance. Now we can also, let me maybe switch back here to the vertical pattern, and now we can also open up the elevation profile. And so here you can see we have a nice little oscilloscope looking like graph here. And also here you can see the lines representing the waypoints. So also this you can have with terrain following or without terrain following. So right now you can see I have this follow terrain checkbox enabled, but if you wanted it to just, fly straight, you can simply uncheck that, and then you'll see that this simply flies like so. And in fact, what's cool, I think, is you can actually combine different vertical inspection patterns in the same route. So that's something the GCS offers. Any kind of these flight patterns, whether it's an area scan, photogrammetry, corridor, vertical scan, you can actually combine all of them in a single route. So also quite interesting, quite good thing. And yeah, you can also, of course, like I mentioned earlier, convert any route into waypoints. So there's a lot of different adjustments that go into this and that allow you to essentially plan flights exactly how you want them to be. So that's about the vertical scan. And then also very quickly, I'll just show to you the circle tool, which also could be useful. For instance, this can be used for doing chimney inspections, for doing also tower inspections. So here, what I can do is I can set the number of laps that I want the drone to do. So right now you can see we have the AGL altitude, we have this flight speed, number of laps, vertical spacing between the laps. And so then using this tool, also you're able to scan different these vertical structures. These can be, again, water towers, telecommunication towers. So all of these things you can also do with this tool. And there's quite a lot of other different tools as well. Again, we don't have time really to go into all of them today, but you're also free to play around with them and see what kind of missions can you construct, because here really it gives you a ton of options of what you can do with the software. But okay, so now I propose we go back into the presentation. So out of the software, if you want later on, I can return and show various other things. Next topic that I want to cover is the pricing and how to get started. So let's go here into UgCS site. So actually, we have a free version of UgCS. It's called UgCS Open. So if you never used it, you can just download it today. You just need your email to sign up. And UgCS Open, it's not limited by time, meaning that you can use it for as long as you want. And so to download it, you simply go to our site, then press download UgCS Open, and then it'll take you to the downloads page where you can download it either for Windows or for Mac OS. Then once it's downloaded, you simply activate it and you can use it. This download is the same kind of as for other licenses. So the actual installer doesn't really change. It's just what license you're using. Open license does have some limitations. So it's limited to a maximum distance of 250 meters per route, and it's limited to flying 2 routes per day. So just keep that in mind. Those are the limitations for the free license. Now, let's go back and let's go into the normal licenses and what we have here. So this is in our web shop. So here you can see there's different options for, so essentially we have 3 different licenses here. So firstly, we have your UgCS Pro license. So the Pro license, this is the best license for doing mapping work, for doing photogrammetry. You can still use all drones with this, but you just don't have access to some other tools which other licenses have. But just to get started, also it's good enough for most pilots. Now, if you're doing LiDAR surveys or magnetic surveys or any kind of other geophysical work, then best is to go with the Expert license, because Expert license gives you access to the LiDAR tools. So all the LiDAR toolset, LiDAR area, LiDAR corridor, all the LiDAR calibration patterns. And also, yeah, what's important is it does also allow you to use the Smart AGL feature. So yeah, Expert is kind of the go-to license we recommend for most pilots. And then for those of you who are maybe, already working with teams of drone pilots where you need to synchronize the flight plans or where you need to fly multiple drones, then Enterprise license would be the way to go. And also it allows to build different custom apps on top. Now, regarding pricing here, you can see this is for the monthly license. So these prices here, they are only for monthly subscriptions, right? So they're not like, monthly, but it's kind of, you have to pay for a year. No, so these are just, you can just pay each month and you can cancel whenever you like. Now, also we have the perpetual licenses. So again, like I mentioned earlier, so the perpetual license essentially means that you own the license. It's lifetime license, and you can use it for as long as you want. There's no limits here. Yeah, essentially the support and updates for first year are included, and then starting from second year, you can choose to again get access to newer versions and so on. But if you don't want to pay starting from second year, that's completely fine. Software remains functional. You can keep using it. The annual support, so this you can also find on our shop. So also if you go here to so under UgCS here, then select on support and updates. So also you can see for various different licenses, you can see how much are the support and updates. So each license, the perpetual licenses and subscriptions, they come with also one device, meaning you can activate on one device. But if you want, for instance, get an additional device, you can also do that through here. So for any license, also this is available. And if you maybe want to start out with the pro license, then maybe later down the road you want to upgrade to expert. So also there's an option like that. So you can just get started with the pro perpetual, for example, and then later down the road, you don't have to purchase the full expert license. You can just purchase the upgrade and upgrade to it that way. So I hope that this is clear. So essentially, in short, to summarize, 3 different licenses that you can choose between. So Pro for mapping and photogrammetry, Expert for LiDAR and magnetometry and other geophysical work, and then Enterprise for larger teams of drone pilots. There's 2 options here, so monthly and perpetual. There's another license if you look for it here. There is also possible to buy it annually. So also in case you're interested in that, you can also, sorry, I think it's called yearly. Yes, also this is here. So if you prefer to buy a yearly subscription, also you can find it on our site. But I see that most people actually prefer to either use the perpetual license or the monthly subscription. So then that's about the licenses and the pricing. Hope this is clear enough. And now let me see if there's maybe some more questions. And I'll try to answer as much as I can. So again, just a kind reminder, please try to put the questions in the Q&A. I see there's a lot of questions now in the chat. So let's do this. I'll try to kind of answer the ones which I didn't yet answer. And I'll maybe start with the Q&A, and then also I'll move into answering some of the questions in the chat. Okay, from in the Q&A from Steven, I see, what program did you use to provide this 3D digital twinning image you showed at the beginning of the demo? So I'm guessing you probably are referring to this one, right? So like I mentioned, so here I used a reality scan. I can highly recommend it. It's really great. By the way, reality scan is right now for free for companies with annual revenue of less than 1 million. So if you want to get into 3D modeling and reconstruction, that's a really good option I can offer. It was called previously reality capture, but then at some point they renamed it to reality scan. It's owned by Epic Games, if I'm not mistaken. And another good software I can recommend for photogrammetry and mapping work, this is Agisoft Metashape also. Also, I've had really great results with it. I know a lot of our customers also use it. Again, we're not affiliated, so I'm just kind of saying what I like personally, right? So we're not getting paid for promoting exact softwares. So yeah, reality scan if you're just getting started, and as a paid software, Metashape is good. I know there's also others. There's Drone Deploy, there's Pix4D, but personally, I just haven't had that much experience with this. So I'm kind of just telling what I have experience with. But also there's interesting workflow. I think I showed this in maybe some other webinars. If you're interested in some 3D modeling, there's a workflow how you can also do Gaussian splatting. You might have heard about it. So there's one way how you can use reality scan together with some other software such as PostShot, and then this also allows you to even create these cool Gaussian splatting models, which you can then later use either for preview, or I know some people use it for creating some virtual environments for let's say some 3D tours, or even for video games. So also just interesting stuff. Okay, let's see what else. Yeah, one question from Ethan. So can UgCS be used with the Freefly Astro Max? Yeah, with the Doodle Labs Radio and the Pilot Pro. Yeah, so with the Pilot Pro controller, I know it's running the Autel flight planning software, if I'm not mistaken. So Autel also, I know it runs on a normal Freefly Astro, but actually now we're also working with them to kind of officially support the Pilot Pro. So officially we can't say that the Pilot Pro is fully supported, but we're working on it, and so hopefully soon also we'll be able to add full support for that. Okay, so let's see what else. Okay, now I think I'm maybe try to answer some questions from the chat as well. Yeah, by the way, another question I see in the Q&A is there any special price for education? So for students and researchers, actually, we do offer some discounts. So if you're interested in finding out more about that and about educational pricing, feel free to reach out to us at support@ugcs.com, and then we'll try to help you. I know we also have a lot of students testing out. I recently also, worked with quite a few who are using UgCS for their research projects or thesis. So yeah, also we do like to support education and the next generation of drone pilots and researchers. So now let me try to cover some questions from the chat that are here. So firstly, can you say more on the connection of UgCS via RC to ArduPilot? This one I think I already answered previously. Correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I didn't mention enough. What is the recommended US-made UAV compatible with the Zoned Aero and Zoned Aero LF? It's crucial the drone is manufactured in USA and, of course, compatible with UgCS. We are personally working with a few drone companies, but one that I can recommend for the Zoned Aero is the Inspired Flight. I've personally had experience also with the Inspired Flight IF800. So let's see. So this is the IF800 Tomcat. This is a drone made in the USA. It should check that checkbox, right? My first impressions, actually, we have, by the way, a video on our YouTube channel with this drone, but actually first impressions were really great. It flew, if you're experienced with something like the DJI M300, this will be very, very familiar. So it also has these smart batteries, and it's very capable. It flies in a very similar way. It also has the controller with the inbuilt screen. So if you're looking for some great USA-made drone, I can definitely recommend looking at Inspired Flight. I believe it's also Blue UAS certified. So also you should be able to use it on some governmental contracts if you have any. But we're not really limited only to Inspired Flight. Also, I know that Freefly makes really great drones. And also you can look into, for instance, Freefly Astro, Freefly Alt X. But yeah, Inspired Flight also is really great. One other drone I can also, I know we're now working with is there's the ArcSky X55 drone. So yeah, ArcSky, they're a company based in Austin, Texas. Also, actually, by the way, we have an office in Texas as well, even though we're primarily based in Latvia and Riga, but also we have a small office already there, so some presence. So yeah, also this drone is something you can look into. So again, made in USA and also industrial drone, which you can also use with different sensors. So then another question I see is again regarding this DJI Mini 5 Pro will be available soon. I hope, right? So if we can go to DJI MSDK. I can show you the main problem here in the MSDK, and it's that, oh, sorry, we might need to go exactly to documentation, but in short, the MSDK 5, it doesn't yet support the Mini 5 Pro drone. So here in this, so DJI publishes all of the supported drones with their newest MSDK version. So here you can see the latest drone actually they added. This was back in November last year, the Mini 4 Pro, and for that we added the support. So if you want to see official Mini 5 Pro drone support in UgCS, you can all collectively send DJI emails saying, hey, please add Mini 5 Pro to your MSDK, and then maybe with enough pressure, they will add it. But in all seriousness, though, usually it takes them some time to add the drone to their MSDK, so it doesn't usually happen right away with the release. Only exception is their Enterprise Series drones, which already come with that. So I would expect that the Mini 5 Pro support gets added to MSDK, but it might take some time. So whenever DJI releases it, then we will also be able to add support for this drone. Okay, now let me go through some other questions. Okay, so another question is about the Autel drone. So is Autel drone, is the Autel Evo 2 640 supported? Answer is yes. So Autel is supported, but not to the same level how some other drones, unfortunately. But you can, with that said, you can still use Autel with UgCS, and we have pilots using Autel drones. So also here, if you go to our website and then go to Autel section, you can also actually see we do support both the Autel Evo 2 series and the Autel Evo Max 4 series of drones. So here, how they work is that you can plan out your missions for Autel and UgCS, and then you can export the flights into KML files. And then the KML file mission you can upload into Autel Explorer app, and you can use then the drone on the mission there. And you also mentioned, Charles, about the RTK module. So the RTK module, all that is handled with the Autel controller. So UgCS doesn't really get involved there. So everything, how you're using it currently, that same workflow will work also with Autel, just that the KML file from UgCS, you have to take it and input it inside of the Autel Explorer. Okay, so let's see what other questions you guys have. As actually today there's quite a lot. I'm kind of jumping between the Q&A and the chat. The webinar recording, I see the question about this. This will be available, yes. So don't worry, we always send the webinar recordings after, so you will get it. And if you want, you can replay any part of it. And by the way, also, if you maybe just want to ask some more questions after the webinar, you can do so in our Facebook group. We're also very active there, or you can simply reach out to us at support@UgCS. But okay, now I'll try to maybe go through if there's some other questions I can answer. So about the drones, what you can use for USA, this I answered. About dividing the areas as well. About pricing also answered. Okay, so another question is, so how do you upload a mission to the cloud? Okay, I think it's also a great question. I'll maybe try to explain this. I'll jump back into UgCS here, just so I can explain briefly how this all works. So let me open up here. So in the top right, where you see the plus button, and then there's this window, connect from DJI Pilot 2. So here you can see there are two options. So if you're using a drone that is running on the Pilot 2 app on the controller, so this is usually DJI latest Enterprise series drones. So the instructions are essentially here on what you can do. But I'll explain a bit kind of how this cloud connection works. So with the cloud connection, you will not be able to see the drone inside of UgCS. That's an important key point. However, all of the routes which you plan in UgCS, they will be immediately available inside of your Pilot 2. So this is a really great thing. And this means that even if maybe in your team you have somebody planning flights somewhere further away, maybe in another state, then they can still plan the flights. And then as long as both devices have active internet connection, they don't have to be on the same internet. They can be very, very far from one another. Then you'll still be able to have the flights synchronized. So how it works is you will firstly need to log in here on UgCS. So here you just need to follow these instructions, log in with your Google account, and then once this is done, then all of the routes you have here, they will be uploaded to UgCS cloud server. And then you will just do the same thing on the remote controller, meaning that you also log in using the same credentials on Pilot 2. And yeah, then essentially all the routes will be synchronized. And when you go in Pilot 2, there will be the kind of local library and cloud tab when you go to the routes. And then in the cloud tab, you'll have all the routes which are, as the name implies, available in the cloud. So hopefully that answers also that. Okay, another interesting question. So at what slope or inclination do I switch from planning a horizontal mission to planning a vertical mission? I would probably say vertical missions, this is typically when you would be scanning objects that are, let's call them more vertical, right? So let's say when something like 70, 80 degrees, but it really depends on what you're scanning. All right. So if you're scanning, let's take as an example some buildings like this, right? So usually okay, maybe not the best example because these are just like some suburbs, but even if you're scanning some taller buildings, so usually you would want to use a combination of both if you want to get a good model. If you just want to, have some very basic 3D model, you would just do a horizontal flight, and that's it. And you can manipulate with the camera angles in different ways. You can, for instance, instead of having the 90-degree camera angle, you can use something like 70, and then with that, you can still, put all of the images in some photogrammetry software such as Reality Scan, and you can get a good result. However, if you really want to capture good data on the facade, and if that's important, that's when you need to do the vertical scanning. So yeah, question is, how important is it to capture in very high detail what's on that vertical surface? But if you just need to fly over some area with very kind of sharp changes in elevation, so maybe something like this. So here you would still just use normal horizontal flights because UgCS actually allows you to follow the terrain very closely, or even use Smart AGL to allow the drone to keep a safe distance to it. So hopefully that also answers. Another question. So is Enterprise only compatible for team collaboration with DJI drones? No, it's actually for any drone. So doesn't matter if you have DJI or ArduPilot or PX4 or, as we call, also USA made drone. So you can use any of our licenses with these drones. So there's no limitations. The limitation for that is unlocked for the Enterprise and locked for others is how many drones you can simultaneously connect. So for the Pro license and the Expert license, the limit is 3 drones simultaneously. For Enterprise license, it is up to 10 drones simultaneously connected, right? So again, this doesn't mean that you can't have, for instance, more than 3 drones in your fleet. This just means simultaneous connection. That's the limit here. And in case you want to use more than 10 drones at the same time, then also we have another product that's called the UgCS Commander, which actually allows you to synchronize drone takeoffs, takeoff with the press of one button and so on. But it's mainly used nowadays for counter UAS systems testing. Okay, now let's see some other questions. Okay, so for high precision magnetic surveys, I noticed that the drone reaches a waypoint aligned with the change in terrain slope. It reduces its speed and alters its orientation, especially its pitch, for a few seconds, even when adaptive mode is enabled. Is it possible to configure the system so that the transitions can be as smooth as possible? Yes. So let me maybe try to give you some example on this. So you can still see UgCS screen. Yes, you can still see. So let me plan out a new route. So usually when you're planning out magnetic surveys, you are using area scan. So we have, today I showed you the LiDAR area, that's here, and also I showed the photogrammetry. But actually for magnetic surveys, users are usually using normal area scans. So now let me try to go to some area and plan it out. Let's say the flight height is 50 meters. And let's plan it out like so. And the side distance, for instance, let's say something like 50 as well. Okay. So the problem you described is that the drone, when it reaches the turns, it still, turns like it brakes a bit abruptly. What I can recommend you do here is, I'm not sure, maybe you are already using it. So if so, let me know. But there are the overshoot segments, which can be very useful in these situations. So let's say the turn type now can be set to adaptive bank turn, but you already mentioned that you are using this altitude mode. Let's keep at Smart AGL. And then here, if we go into these advanced settings, we have the overshoot here. So now what the overshoot does is it essentially extends the flight line. So you can, for instance, set this to, as an example, I'll set this to 50 meters. And so now you can see that the drone flies 50 meters kind of outside normal limits. Okay, maybe here not the best example because there's this also terrain slope, but let's actually look at this other side here to maybe make it a bit easier. So now also using the shortcut Control P, I can just toggle so I can see all of the waypoints in this area scan. And also now let's maybe just slightly extend this overshoot. So What you can do with the overshoots is you can not only add them kind of lengthwise, but also you can set a different speed there. So for instance, if for the normal flight, you can see we have the speed of 5 meters per second, then for the overshoot, we can have a speed of, let's say, something like 2 meters per second. Now, this will already decrease the sway in the magnetic sensor that the drone is using, right? So the drone should slow down gradually. So from 5 meters, it goes here and then it will slow down even more. And then this is what allows it to corner better. So corner with less shaking. So that's one of the things which you can do. And also, of course, the overshoot speeds you can set to what you want. So 2 meters per second, 1 meter. So you can also play around with this. So that's one of the things. Another thing, this will depend on what sensor you're using on the drone, is you can actually set the drone to not change the yaw at all. So the drone doesn't rotate, it will simply use the same orientation for the same mission. This can be useful not only for magnetic surveys, also, for instance, doing solar panel inspections. And so this you can do by adding an action here that is the change yaw action. And so now the change yaw, there's two options. There's setting it with respect to the next waypoint and setting it with respect to north. Now you can see if I mouse over this arrow, it shows me that this automatically determined direction angle for this survey polygon is 82 degrees with respect to north. So now we can again enter this with respect to north, enter this as 82, hit enter. And now, well, you don't see any changes here visually, but what happens is that the drone will have an action of keeping the yaw constant. So this means that as the drone will be flying, for example, through the stern, it will keep a constant heading, so it will not really rotate. And this can be useful for some sensors which are hanging on the ropes so that they will not, really swing around every time a drone corners. But that's one way how to solve it. Another way is, simply setting the overshoots and making sure they are at a slower speed. Okay, let's see, maybe then some other questions. I hope that I managed to answer this. Is there a limit for a number of waypoints in one route? Also a great question. For UgCS, actually, no, there is no limit, but this will depend on what drone you're using. I know that some drones can only accept a limited amount of waypoints. Nowadays, with modern drones, this limit has been removed. So there, maybe if you remember, if you use some older DJI drones, there was a limit of 99 waypoints per route, but that was in the old days, as they say. So right now there's no real limit on that. Limit is a bit in the processing power, but for example here, let's maybe go to this route. So now let me open this up. And we can see, so we have 410 waypoints in this route right here. And for instance, also if we wanted to have even more waypoints there, what we can do is we can play around with side overlap, just kind of demo a bit. So we can go from 30 to 60 and we'll have a lot more waypoints there. Now if we open up elevation profile, you can see we have 600. So I know there's guys flying routes with also thousands of waypoints. And so it's all good, and this is what you also can do within the software. Okay, actually, I see we're already there are quite a lot of questions, so we are a bit outside of the time. Yeah, so I think probably then for today we can try to wrap it up. In case you would like, if in case you're on LinkedIn, then here there's the QR code for my profile. So also feel free to add me as a connection, and let's connect and talk there if you have any questions. And also remember about our Facebook group of drone pilots. You're also very much welcome to join there and ask any questions related to GCS or to general drone surveying. If maybe you are already a GCS user and you want to, have some more answers from us, then also we're very active simply in our service desk. So you can write to us at support@ugcs.com. So support@ugcs.com, and that's how you can reach us, including also reach me. And I'll be more than happy to answer you with any questions you guys might have.